this is Tony. This will be part 2 of our series on psychochemical warfare masquerading as psychiatric medicine. As we can see here, first let me start off by prefacing that many of these drugs, if not all of these antipsychotic drugs, have anticholinergic or antimuscarinic effects. Now we see here on a list of types of chemical warfare agents that antimuscarinic agents or anticholinergic compounds are types of chemical warfare agents. Okay, now these chemical warfare agents are being said to be used as medicines, which during this video and many of the other videos that will follow, I will explain to you how that is not possible. Going on to the next slide, we see some of the more popular antipsychotics that have anticholinergic properties. Okay. Chlorpromazine was one of the first antipsychotics ever introduced to the population. And it is said to be, academically, it is said to be the first antipsychotic, which we know for a fact that it isn't. And the reason for that is they want to make it appear, and that's the thing, appearances are everything in psychiatry. They want to make it appear that these drugs were manufactured or created in a lab somewhere, disconnected from nature, disconnected from reality, and we all of a sudden present you with this extraordinary knowledge of how the human brain works and this extraordinary knowledge of how human behavior works. This is not true. You know, the place in which they got the concept and the idea for antipsychotic drugs from was in India. It was India where the first antipsychotic was used. It was known as an herbal remedy used for demon possession. It was known as Rauwolfia serpentina. I'll get into a whole nother video detailing that and the history of that, the world's first antipsychotic. Okay, because there's a thin line between psychosis and demon possession. In fact, they are equivalent to each other. The phenomena in the old world of demon possession is in today's world the phenomena of mental illness, of psychosis. These are one and the same thing. And it is the belief in Christianity which influences this the most. It's not the only influential factor, but yet it is probably the biggest one. Because in the modern day, it has been Christianized largely. The modern world has been largely Christianized. And there's even a psychiatrist by the name of Richard Gallagher who simultaneously diagnoses psychiatric illness and acts as an exorcist. Not making this up. And that is today in this world. But again, psychiatry modern day will try to do everything in its power to make you think that it's a neutral moral and neutral religious institution, in which it is not, because the founder of psychiatry was a staunch Christian. His name is Benjamin Rush. And he's famous. He's a famous American. He's famous for many other things than founding psychiatry, as many of you well know. We go on to some more of these slides here. More supporting evidence that psychiatric medicines are actually chemical warfare agents and are veritable Trojan horses, as I explained in the description of my previous part 1 in this video series. Okay, they're Trojan horses. They're like giving smallpox blankets to Indians, basically, because it's false advertising. Okay. Block the action of acetylcholine. Okay, they don't really get into it here, but acetylcholine is necessary to slow your heart rate, to do many different things that the autonomic nervous system does, your body does involuntarily, which includes respiration, your heart rate, and different things like that. Okay, it even shows here the toxicity of these agents. Anticholinergic syndrome, produced by the inhibition of cholinergic neurotransmission at muscarinic receptor sites. It may follow the ingestion of a wide variety of prescription and over-the-counter medicines. This syndrome may be caused by intentional overdose, inadvertent ingestion, medical non-compliance, or geriatric polypharmacy. Systemic effects also have resulted from topical eye drops. So no matter where you're exposed to anticholinergics, they have a very toxic, very poisonous effect on the body. They in fact shut it down. There's a whole disorder called dysautonomy, and the black box, I don't know if the black box warnings on the neuroleptic psychiatric drugs actually talk about this, but in documents you will see documented evidence and proof linking dysautonomia to usage of antipsychotics. Even says here, altered mental status. So I'll get into it more, but the symptoms of so-called mental illness are actually caused by the drugs themselves. The hallucinations, I have a slide on here in a research journal which talks about hallucinations that were made worse by using anticholinergic antipsychotics. Okay. Additional manifestations include the following. Yes, you can read that. Now, here goes a list, of course, again, of the antipsychotics which popularly have the anticholinergic action. Yeah, here's another thing about antipsychotics which they don't tell you, is that they are alkaloids. Alkaloids are mostly plant-based compounds, plant-based substances that are highly toxic. In fact, one of the most dangerous plants in the world, belladonna, which you may have seen on the previous slide, as an alkaloid, the belladonna alkaloid is one of the most toxic things. It basically just shuts your body down. And that's what these antipsychotics are doing. They're shutting people's bodies down by, first of all, depressing the central nervous system. That's how they classify it. But really the more dangerous effect is the effect of it has on the autonomic nervous system, which is your involuntary nervous system, including your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system which deals with resting and digesting. It's the rest and digest part of the nervous system. And then there's your fight or flight mechanism, which is your sympathetic nervous system. Now, what antipsychotics are actually doing to the body is they're putting the body in a chronically overstimulated state of the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight mechanism. And then that's causing you to be stressed to an unnatural degree. That's causing you to hallucinate and have all these what they call movement disorders occur, and muscular disorders occur. Again, all because your autonomic nervous system has been dysregulated. And again, here's the connection again to the plant kingdom, because these things were not invented in a lab because someone was studying a brain slice and said, oh, hey, wait a minute, we know how this works neurochemically. Not how it worked at all. What happened was some people went over to India to see about this drug that was curing demon possessions, and they thought of using its applications in the sense of mental health, or medicalizing. The medicalization of demon possession is really actually what psychiatry is. And exorcism is what psychiatry actually is. So they took this plant in India and they isolated all of its constituent parts. That later became Respirine, which was the first antipsychotic ever produced. And it was right around the same time, in early 1950s, in which chlorpromazine was developed, which is ironic, seeing as they called that one the first one, but the first one was really this Indian plant herb, in which they later synthesized all other antipsychotics after. So, and it has, I believe it has anticholinergic effects or properties as well. The one thing it does for certain have, as there's belladonna again, the one thing it does for certain have is the dopamine blocking component. It blocks the action of dopamine. None of the things are good. These things are actually the poisonous effects of taking a plant neurotoxin. Okay, blocking dopamine is not something that was created in a lab where they figured out neuroscience way back when, before it had barely even been invented. And they're in a time where people still believed in demon possession, and they still believe in demon possession today, by the way. And they tried to, without the proper knowledge, peer into things which they did not quite understand yet, which is neuroscience and neurology. I could really get into that as well, because dopamine was discovered only a certain time ago. Choline was discovered only a certain time ago, and there's still not a lot of information out there on it and what it actually does in the body. Yet we're supposed to believe, even without that scientific data, without that knowledge, that it's implicated in demon possession, it's implicated in mental illness. We're supposed to all just assume all these things. Okay, so the muscarinic receptor system. This is a wiki that explains that, the parasympathetic nervous system, all that. Okay, this even talks about the fact that your body in its natural homeostatic state needs dopamine in a good amount, and it needs choline in a good amount. And it even has analgesic, that is pain inhibiting properties. Both dopamine and choline or acetylcholine. And there's plenty of studies on this. And the reason that they're not doing more studies and they don't have more empirical data is because they're all covering for the pharmaceutical companies, which are the richest, fastest growing industry on planet Earth. Okay, so some of this is being done. Some people are motivated, believing in psychiatry, the religion of psychiatry, by money alone, by social capital, because they find, oh, it's a good niche to carve if you want to be an authoritarian, if you want to be an untouchable. It's basically like the mafia. It's basically a gang. An antinomian gang, but a gang at that. See more research here on the effects of the muscarinic or cholinergic system in the body. You see, even the experience, the sensation of pain, is actually associated with the autonomic nervous system itself. And this is the exact system in which antipsychotics are disrupting. Antipsychotics not only cause pain, they cause all of the so-called suite or spectrum of psychotic symptoms occur for the first time, and also as prodromally, and then also exacerbate anything that's already there, makes it worse. Again, the science is there. It's right there. Anyone can look this up and see this for themselves. Sometimes you have to read between the lines of the propaganda, of the false advertising, and the lies. But it's there. If you just stick on the road and you keep going down the line of skeptical agnotological inquiry into the science, into the data, you'll see the reality of what's actually going on. Okay, again, the vagus nerve, for it to function, needs choline. So stimulating the vagus nerve in the neck might help ease pain. You see this? Actually, vagal nerve stimulation is actually being researched to be used as an alternate treatment method for so-called mental illness. But my point here is to show you that mental illness does not exist. It is a gerontocratic and religious social construct in which parents use to abuse and mind control and brainwash their children. And the state is part of that, because the state is what you call the parens patriae, or the parent of the nation. And that is when they get into the realm of public health, public welfare rather, and public healthcare. Which is where they get their tendrils, antinomian or unlawful tendrils, into the system and into you and your children at. And also in the churches where they brainwash them there. Okay. The primary reason this is the problem is that as a constitutionalist, I'm very aware that the First Amendment of our Constitution is being broken. It's being completely violated by the institution of psychiatry, because the institution of psychiatry is a Christian system. And one of the important parts of the First Amendment states that the government cannot side with one religion over another. It can't side with any religion. But it has in psychiatry, because psychiatry is modern day exorcism. It's medicalized, fraudulently scientificalized exorcism and belief in demon possession, which are not one in one with Christianity, yet the system itself mainly is. And the parents and people that actually raise their children are usually Christian. That's where the inherent problem lies. The people administering and enforcing these laws are also Christian, mostly, predominantly. So again, it's another one of those slippery slopes where it's like the Constitution is getting trampled on. And here's the part in which I support my evidence that the sympathetic nervous system is overstimulated and you're put in the fight or flight mode. And then you wonder why they're always talking about, oh, these psychotics are all violent and stuff like that. No, they're psychotic because they're drugging them and they're making them psychotic. Or they're putting them in a state which they're calling psychosis fraudulently. Paroxysmal sympathetic hyperactivity. Okay, hyperactivity of the sympathetic nervous system manifests an increased heart rate. Remember I told you the vagus nerve slows the heart rate. The choline that's needed, or acetylcholine that's needed for the vagus nerve to operate correctly, slows the heart rate and keeps it slow, keeps it steady, keeps you calm, keeps you in check, keeps you out of being in the sympathetic hyperactivity mode. Okay, increases blood pressure. And this is the important part, hyperthermia. I will be chronicling the real effects of these drugs because I have been put on them against my will. That doesn't make me a crazy person. It makes me a victim of the state. Okay, is what it makes me. And as you can see there, I will be chronicling all this. I will be putting, I don't care that, okay, let me put it to you this way. I have told my mother, who I have been told, has factitious disorder imposed on another, which, if you know what that is, it's called FDIA and DSM-5. Okay. It is that's the newer form or the newer name for the archaic form of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Okay. My mother is what you would call definably psychotic. That is that she has false beliefs that are not supported by evidence. Okay. But the entire psychiatric industry does as well. I tried to make this video 3 or 4 different times and couldn't get her to stop texting me, to stop calling me. This is how enmeshed she is. So there was like a stalker-esque type of form of relationship dynamic you have going on. If you catch my drift, okay? So that's what's happening there. I will help chronicle that in a different video. But I'm doing this as I have stated in my previous videos, as a form of inverse surveillance. Inverse surveillance can be pointed at authorities to keep them in check where they are out of check and not going by the book, not following the law. They're behaving antinomianly. Okay? And like I said, this all ties in together. The family structure, the state structure, the fact that the state is stepping in as your family and coddling you and babying you, and then also torturing and killing you in the form of the parents' patriarchy through psychiatry. Okay? This is what this is. This was a whole expose on this. Okay? So when that pops up, oh, she's calling me, she's gaslighting me, she's saying she's sick, whatever like that. That's part of it. You saw that. Psychogenic illness. I'll be getting into mass psychogenic illness in a different video, or different video series rather. But each of these video series will build up kind of a repertoire for you to cite and reference real facts, real scientific data, and help you. Okay? If you are in a situation in your family where you're being abused and you can't get out of that situation because the law, under the color of law, your rights have been deprived you, which is literally against a federal law, Okay, Title 18, Section 242 says that under the color of law, your rights are not to be deprived. Okay, and that's before we even get into the fact that that's supporting the constitutional amendment rights, and that's what's really being said when they're saying that. Okay. Here explains what paroxysmal is. Okay, that is it's a rhythmic nature or a cyclic nature to the recurrence of the symptom. Okay, hydrocephalus, also another thing caused by neuroleptics. Okay, antipsychotics. I hate using the term antipsychotic again, because psychosis is a fraud, it's a fabrication, cover up the fact that people are accusing and persecuting people for being demon-possessed and then hiding and covering it up as science, hiding and covering it up cowardice as medicine, okay? If any of you, again, are out there and experiencing this abuse, please feel free to get in contact with me. You're not alone in this fight. There's things that can be done, and I will help you along that path. If you are on antipsychotics right now and you know you need to get off of them because they're killing you, because they're causing you to experience negative symptoms, things that are not in your character, what the psychiatrists would call ego dystonic states, I can help. Okay, now I've experienced this myself, neuroleptic malignant syndrome. They had to restart my heart. I had to take activated charcoal to defibrillate me, all that. It says it right there. Dysautonomia, what I was talking about the whole time. Okay? These drugs shut down your body. Okay? That's what they do. They attack the brain. They're neurotoxins. Okay. As an aside note, we need to definitely social network and get people who are under this abuse, psychiatric abuse, to be able to contact one another at any time. And we can start here on YouTube. Again, if you're seeing this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Hopefully, it doesn't matter what age you are. Hopefully, if you're you're a child of parents who are abusing you or using psychiatry, weaponizing psychiatry against you, this is definitely your point in which you can stand up for yourself. Okay? See, more proof, more evidence here for the ANS effects of the drugs. The nervous system may be dysregulated, often leading to blunted autonomic reactivity to nervous stressful stimuli. Yet again, where the autonomic nervous system fails, pain prevails. And this is what the drugs do. They attack the autonomic nervous system. They're neurotoxins. I don't have a slide where it uses that particular term, neurotoxin, in this particular video, but as you can see, you could take my word for it. I provide, whenever I use a terminology, it's because I already have a slide for it, okay? So you can guarantee that. So if there's any question in your mind, oh, he's not providing evidence, he's saying things that I'm not sure I can go down a line of inquiry on, like I said, I will always footnote, piggyback to that for you and provide evidence. I will make a whole series on why blocking dopamine should never be done, only in certain circumstances when a patient is not conscious. Now, the epistocracy will tell you, oh, you can't talk on this subject because you're not an expert or whatever, right? So you can't speak on this subject. You're not a doctor. You're not an authority figure. First of all, let me tell you, it's your right to be able to stand up and talk about these things. It's your political right. It's your social right. I got it. Okay. So, you can stand up for yourself. You have freedom of speech here in America. Many other places, psychiatrists aren't God. They're not the authorities on everything. They're certainly not the authorities on reality, even though they're going to tell the layman that they're psychotic and they're detached from reality from an authoritarian and dictatorial platform, which is unfair and it's unjust, because you have a natural right to experience this reality. You have a natural right to socialize with whomever you will, whomever you may, and to speak on whatever topic, no matter how much it upsets the status quo. It's not illegal yet. Okay? So it even tells you right here, increased levels of dopamine likely contribute to the painful symptoms of frequently occurring Parkinson's disease. Not to mention that it is the depletion of dopamine which leads to Parkinson's disease in the first place. And Parkinson's disease is iatrogenically induced via usage of antipsychotic drugs. They call it Parkinsonism and not Parkinson's disease. But I like to study and research, find out myself, how many of these how many people on antipsychotics who experience Parkinsonism have actually later on went on to develop Parkinson's disease full blown, and see if that is a higher rate of incidence than those who have not. Okay. Well, we're probably getting pretty close to a good point to stop off here. I'll probably save the rest for another video. But, let me just preface this to state one last thing before I go and conclude, is that, those of you out there who are being abused by psychiatrists, abused by family members, maybe even by you are in an intimate partner relationship and someone's gaslighting you and trying to use weaponized psychiatry against you that way. Their whole thing is to sabotage you. As you see on this video, I couldn't even finish a video because I have an abuser sabotaging me. You see what I mean? And making it all about them. So, again, it's very imperative that you like, you subscribe, contact me in the comments. You can get at me there that way. I have an email specifically set up, telepathrefuge@gmail.com, for anyone to get in touch with me anytime. Any of these topics, I'm there for you. And I just want to let that be said, put that out there. Okay, so again, this is Tony. I hope to hear from my subscribers soon, and have a great rest of your day. We'll pick back up here later.